Okay guys, in this video we're going to talk about the second conjugation and how to conjugate verbs that are in the second conjugation. Up till now, all of the verbs that we have been learning, with the exception of the irregular verb to be, have been in what we call the first conjugation. If you remember from your sound off facts, Latin verbs are grouped in families called conjugations. We have our first conjugation pattern where you see the O and the MO, the are and the amare, the awi and the amawi, and the atum and the amatum. This pattern of o, are, awi, atum is very regular and follows through most of the verbs in first conjugation. We know it's a first conjugation verb because of the long are over the second principal part, which is called the infinitive. Here we have a second conjugation verb, the verb to see, video, videre, vidi, visu. And I want to point out a couple of differences between the two. If you'll notice, first of all, in the first form, it ends in EO. If you look at all of the verbs in chapter 14 in your book, you will see that all the verbs follow this pattern and have an EO in the first form. The second form, the infinitive, has long ERE. This lets us know that this is a second conjugation verb. That's how you tell. Again, if you look at all the verbs in your book, you'll see that all the verbs have this ERE pattern. The third form, vidi, and the fourth form, visum, will vary from verb to verb. Sometimes the vidi might be an XI or a UI or a TI, and on the fourth part, it could be a little different as well. So this conjugation isn't as regular in the third and fourth parts, which means you're going to need to spend a little more time with your vocabulary learning how to memorize these forms. So now that we've talked a little bit about the differences between first and second conjugation verbs, let's see how do we conjugate one. Now, one of the great things about conjugating verbs in the second conjugation is that it follows pretty much the same set of rules. We're going to start off by listing our vocabulary up at the top, video, videre, vidi, visum, and we'll have our chart, and you'll see our conjugation chart looks like every conjugation chart we've ever seen. You've got first person, second person, third person on the side, singular and plural up at the top. So let's review. You're going to find, guys, that you already know how to conjugate this. It's just slightly different, and I'll point out where. Step one, we drop and stop. We take the first form, video, and we put it in the first person singular slot. We don't add anything to it. We don't take anything away. Next, we get our stem. We go to the second form, the infinitive. We chop off the RE, and the bloody part that's left over, VIDE, that's our stem. Here's a big difference. If this were a first conjugation verb, the stem vowel at the end would be an A. This is second conjugation. The stem vowel is an E. Next step, we take the stem and we drop it into the rest of the chart. Wide, 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 and my personal favorite, wide. Here's where a lot of students will get messed up. You're so used to doing first conjugation verbs, you're going to be tempted to put an A in there. Avoid that at all costs. If you follow these processes and steps, you'll do just fine. So after we fill out the stem, our next step is our macron pattern of long, long, short, long, long, short. These macrons are essential and you do need to remember them. Our final step, we add the endings. You know them already. OST must descend, OST must descend. The Latin present endings are OST must descend. And there we have the second conjugation verb conjugated in the present tense. So it gives us the forms of video, vides, videt, videmus, videtus, vident. Finally, translation is just as you would expect. I see, you see, he, she, or it sees, we see, y'all see, they see. And that, friends, is how we conjugate a second conjugation verb in the present tense.